All right, you're good to go.
Thank you, Cody. Good evening, all. Welcome to the January 27th, 2021 meeting of the Community Board 6 Housing and Homelessness Committee. My name is Rich Mintz, and I'm the Vice Chair of this committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. Tonight we are joined by Assistant District Manager Cody Oster. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. If there's time following the committee discussion, we will field questions from the public. I will be taking minutes tonight. It happens to be my turn. If I'm looking away from the camera, it means I'm looking at the screen I'm typing in, so it's nothing personal. You should all have received several emails from the board office. This is for members with a link to a doodle sign-up sheet for minutes takers at committee meetings in 2021. For your convenience, Cody is posting the link for the committee in the chat right now. At the direction of the board chair, each committee meeting must have a designated minutes taker and a designated backup just in case. And so to eliminate the guesswork, please make sure that you volunteer for as many slots on the sign-up sheet as you can. If more than 2 people sign up for a particular month, the office will make sure to distribute the duties equitably and will let you know in advance which months you're due to take minutes. If you haven't already filled out the doodle, please do so right away. The link is now in the chat, so this would be a good time to fill it out. We will now take attendance by roll call, and Cody will conduct a roll call.
All right, members, when I call your name, please unmute yourself and declare if you're present. Joan Barenbaum. Joan, I see you, but you are muted.
Present.
Claire Brennan.
Present.
Abigail Cruzmark.
Present.
Rich Mintz.
Present.
Matt Roberts. Okay. Anju Suresh. Corinne Vanderdonk. Jeff Zellen. All right, you've got 5 members present, which is a quorum.
Thank you. So we'll proceed to adopt the agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears on the screen before you. Committee members, if there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. As I understand, there are no objections, and this motion does not require a second or a vote. The agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. We will now adopt the minutes. Committee members, the minutes of the November 16th, 2020 committee meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. And I note that we did not have a meeting of this committee in December. If there is no objection, we will adopt these minutes as drafted. If you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the November 16th, 2020 meeting are adopted and will be available on the CB6 website tomorrow. I will now set some brief ground rules for the meeting. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe these rules. Number 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. Number 2, committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to technical difficulties you may be having or to state in writing information, such as an email address, that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Finally, we are required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of the meeting, so please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. So those are the ground rules. I will now give a very brief update of information for the public before we proceed into the order of the agenda. Members of the public, thank you for joining tonight's meeting. I would like to quickly update the committee and those in attendance about the status of the proposed adult family shelter at 118 East 40th Street at the site of the former Renwick Hotel. As you may know, Community Board 6 and Assembly Member Dan Quart and State Senator Kruger sent the New York City Department of Homeless Services a letter outlining 9 specific points of concern that we had regarding the fair share analysis they submitted to CB6 and the process by which they engaged the community about the opening of this site. CB6 and other local elected officials have received an updated fair share analysis. This document, however, does not address many of the concerns in our letter. DHS has informed us that separate from this new fair share analysis, they are working on a response to our letter. We followed up with them about the status of their response last week, and we were told that, quote, the response is currently under review and will be sent out shortly. When we have more updates to share on that front, we will do that. Similarly, DHS confirmed last week that they do not have a new opening date to share just yet, and that once they do, they will inform the community. Again, as we learn more, we will share with the community. The Renwick Shelter is not on tonight's agenda. Should you wish to raise any questions about the shelter, please wait and we will provide an opportunity to take questions and public comment in the new business section at the end of the meeting. In the chair's report section of the meeting, we will share updates from recent calls that CB6 participated in regarding the Vanderbilt YMCA temporary shelter site and the 30th Street Men's Shelter. We will now proceed into the adopted agenda. The first item of business on the agenda is a presentation by our distinguished guests from Good Shepherd Services about the services offered at Euphrasian Residence and Marion Hall, their residences on East 17th Street. And I will turn the microphone over, I believe, to Annie. Is that right? Who will be speaking first?
Thank you, Rich. Actually,
Yes.
I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna have Denise kick us off.
Thank you, Annie. So are people hearing feedback from my mic?
No, you sound great.
Okay, great. Thank you for having us. My name is Denise Hines. I'm the Associate Executive Director at Good Shepherd. Good Shepherd Services is a large New York City agency that provides services to youth and families across New York City. Our mission is stated here on the PowerPoint: guided by racial and social justice, Good Shepherd Services partners and grows within communities, with communities, so that all New York City children, youth, and families succeed and thrive. We offer 2 networks of community-based youth development programs, one in Brooklyn and grouping in the Bronx. We also have education, youth justice, and family services in Brooklyn and the Bronx. Our group homes for adolescents and supportive housing programs for young adults and foster care and adoption services are in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and the Bronx. In FY 2020, we served 34,282 children, youth, and families, participating in over 91 programs across those boroughs. So that just gives you a little bit of the breadth of who we are. We're here tonight to talk about our programs at 17th Street, 337 East 17th Street, between 1st and 2nd Avenue. The program at 17th Street, actually, the building itself houses 2 programs, and we've been there since the 1940s. Our foundation was started by the Sisters of the Good Shepherd, When they came to America from France, they started programs for girls and women who were in need of housing and support. Euphrasian Residence is one of their earliest New York City programs. And Euphrasian itself is a short-term diagnostic evaluation program. So basically, these young people and all the young people placed at that site come to us from the Children's Center, and we over on First Avenue. And at Euphrasian, we have 16 girls, teenage girls, and our work there is to do a full battery of testing, everything from a psychological to a psychiatric, family psychosocial, a full body workup, medical, dental, and to make a recommendation back to our New York City contracted program at ACS about what the next steps for those young ladies should be. Marion Hall is a long-term therapeutic residence. And so many of the girls who come through Euphrasian who cannot go home for whatever reason may end up spending some time with us more long-term at our Marion Hall program. But not all of the girls from Euphrasian stay with us. Some go home, some go to residential treatment centers outside of New York City, and some go to group homes, and some go to family foster care. But for Marion Hall, we are taking young people, young girls between the ages of 12 and 21, and they are, again, all referred to us by ACS. In FY 2020, we served 125 young ladies, and at Euphrasian, the length of stay is somewhere around 2 months, and at Marion Hall, 15 months. And that's the average length of stay. We have some young people who come and stay longer because they can't go home, and some who stay shorter. One of the things that we're very proud of is that over 90% of the young ladies who live with us actively engage in education and vocational programs. And we're also, very proud of the fact that most of our young ladies, when they come into Euphrasian for services, they're at that time in crisis. Something has caused ACS to feel like they cannot be at home and they need this evaluation. And although they are in crisis, we are able to provide them with the full diagnostic study that they need so that they can get to their next placement. And I don't have that percentage right now, but I do know it's like over 90% of those diagnostic evaluations are completed. And they generally take anywhere from 30 to 60 days to complete. And depending on the youth and their families, it could take longer if need be. And I think the next slide is Marie Fisher is going to take us through.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Marie Fisher, and I'm the Division Director for the residential programs at Good Shepherd Services, the programs that are contracted with ACS. So here at 17th Street, like Denise had described, we've got two programs for our girls. One is Euphrasian, our short-term rapid intervention center, and our longer-term program. And here in the building, we offer an extensive amount of wraparound services for our young people from the time that they enter the program until the time they leave. So the purpose for when a young girl enters is, like Denise said, to do a diagnostic. At Euphrasian, when they come into Euphrasian, immediately we'll do the workup. They get to see their doctors, the health services, and we also have an on-site school through the Department of Education where they also get an educational evaluation. So we do have on-site school for them as well. Our young people have what we call primary counselors, where we have our youth development counselors in our residential life. They will do an assessment. We have to just make sure that their goals are set when they're here. When they come here, they're on level systems where they follow up and monitor their progress and their behavior. We have when they see their social workers, the social workers not only provide therapy for them, but they also run groups. And the groups can vary from whatever's going on to society, to the health and well-being. We also have a component, a career and college component, and a program called Future Focus, where these career counselors and these educational counselors really work intensely with our young people to work on their educational goals. And we also provide, like I said before, recreational activities, different types of structure. We've got mentoring workshops. We have groups which are described as PYA, Preparing Youth for Adulthood. And so it's a program where we work on skills, life skills. It can be from banking, check and financial, to family planning. So an extensive amount of program that we work with our young people when they come in. We have funders that really want to add to the enrichment of the program in terms of taking our young people to camp, taking them outside of the city. So numerous programs that we have for our young people. So, and that's just in our short term. So for our longer term program, our young people work. They can go out, they can work, they can also go to school outside. We work with them again, for their education and vocational goals. We have a really great mentoring program where we connect each young person with a mentor, and it could be from college preparation to, college preparation and, just careers. It's just so varied. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves is engaging with the young people and making connections. That's really important, and also preparing them for permanency. So when they do come in, we make sure that they're connected with a family member or a resource, and we start doing the work from there. We have a really positive relationship with the 13th precinct. We have our community officers that come on a regular basis, and we'll do groups with our young people. We have a youth gym where the officers will, do recreational activities. We have one of our community officers that have adopted one of our girls at Marion Hall, who she wants to be a police officer. So she has mentored her and taken her out and, advised her. So they really do a lot with our young people. They've taken them out to basketball games and events. And again, they have really been such a collaborative support for us at Euphrasia. And they will also come and do some, like I said, some counseling if a young person is really having a hard time, and to really prevent them and help them, stay on the straight and narrow, we like to say, as much as we can. But it's a really positive relationship. We also have different approaches that we work with when a young person comes in. So staff are trained in trauma in working with the young people from a trauma-informed perspective. So a lot of our young people come in, they've had a really extensive amount of trauma. So we are trained in working with them through that lens and working with their family. We also teach them certain skills, to really help them cope. So you may not know the acronyms, but we use cognitive behavioral therapy. Like I said, we use what we call DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, where we have groups to kind of help them, be more successful when they leave. We also, from time to time, have our parenting journey, where if we know that the youth are going to return home, we will work with the parents. And like I said, I talked about MST, and we also have youth and family development, where we work from a strength-based perspective. So there are really a multiple of models that we work that integrate with, that the models integrate with the young people and their families. So, and again, as the screen says, we combine strength-based youth and family development approaches and trauma-informed practices, how we weave them in together for the success of the young person and their family. And I'm not sure if I forgot anything. Did I forget anything you can add?
No, That's
Okay,
great. Thank you, Marie.
sure.
So hi, everyone. My name is Annie Minguez Garcia. I'm the Director of Government and Community Relations at Good Shepherd Services. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the work that we're doing around advocacy and community engagement, which really supports the young people that live with us, but also informs how city and state policies are formulated to impact the lives of young people in care. We are always thinking about this web of relationships and connections that we can make around neighborhood stakeholders and also advocates to bring resources into our community to ensure that the young people, families, and the communities that we're in really prosper. So I wanted to just kind of like share with you here are some images of just some of the conversations or relationships that we've built. I'm glad to see all of you, and we have been in conversations with the community board for some time. And so it's really nice to also be able to present before this committee. We are part of the Fostering Youth Success Alliance, which is a statewide advocacy group that looks to state policies that impact the lives of young people in care. We're also part of CAFCA, which is again another statewide agency of foster care agencies, and also looking at policies and how we ensure that the agencies have the resources they need to support children in care. Fair Future, so when Marie talked about the mentors, and also we have coaches. This is a fairly new model that Good Shepherd, along with other agents, foster care agencies across the city, have been piloting. And it is a coaching model that helps young people with all decisions, literally having an adult that can get them out of, the campus, if they need to get off the campus, get them food, resources, really to support them all around. We've had conversations also with the fire department, of course, our assembly member Gottfried, as well as State Senator Holman. And as Marie mentioned, our partnership with the NYPD has really been a wonderful partnership. And so look, this is what community engagement and advocacy looks like for us. We've been here before you. We wanted to make sure that we share that with you, our partnership with the NYPD, with which Marie already talked about. The community, we have been around thinking about ways to educate and respond to local stakeholders, and stakeholders come to us directly. Sometimes they go through the community board, sometimes they come through the council member's office, Carmina Rivera. But again, how do we continue to open our doors and educate and respond to community concerns or opportunities that exist for our young people to participate in events that are happening locally. And as I mentioned to you, the different advocacy campaigns that we are part of, you should know that also our young people are also involved in advocacy. So civic engagement, that idea of civic engagement is something very key to us. And that every year we have young people from 17th Street and all of our other residences, which Denise talked about, who go with us to Albany or to City Hall to advocate on behalf of themselves and for increased funding for programs that support them. This year, it's changed a little bit. And so we are doing that advocacy virtually, but that advocacy continues, and we're always looking for opportunity to elevate youth voice. So this really concludes our portion of the presentation. I will stop sharing my screen. And again, just want to say thank you to all of the members of the board for allowing us to present, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you very much to all of you. I see no questions in the chat. Cody, I can't see if anyone has hands raised. Yes, I can. Anju has a hand raised. I think you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yes. Thank you, Rich, and thank you everyone for coming and presenting to us to learn more about Good Shepherd Services. I actually had a question. This might be a very basic question with regards to the financing of the residential treatment programs. Is it done through Medicaid? Does New York State like reimburse for Medicaid treatment for the teenage girls that go into the program, or are you largely dependent on funders and essentially like money getting allocated to the city budget?
It's a good question, and it's a little complicated. So we get a rate for each bed that we have, and it's important that we fill as many of those beds as possible because it's a daily rate, or what we call a per diem. And that rate is a state rate set by the state, but funneled to us through the city,
Gotcha.
through ACS. The Medicaid rate, we also have a Medicaid rate. And on the Medicaid side, we're funded for all of our medical services. So we have nurses, we have an agency physician, psychiatrists and psychologists, and that money to support those salaries comes through that Medicaid rate.
Gotcha.
So that's how that works. But and the Medicaid rate is a it's also kind of a per diem as well. So we have to really keep our census up in order to be able to have the kinds of staffing that we want. And in particular, at a program like this that's heavily therapeutic, we need the full array of therapeutic services, including our psychiatrists, psychologists, and even our nurses on a regular basis to be seeing the kids.
Andrew, if you don't mind, I just want to also remind us that this is a program within a larger agency, and for purposes, just so for the record, that the ratio, our funding ratio for the agency is about 85% government funding, so city, state, and a very small federal portion, and then 15% private. That includes individual donors, the contributions of our board, philanthropic community, corporations and institutions.
And many of
foundations.
the add-ons that we talked about, our mentoring, our trips for the girls, things like that. That's where our foundations come in and give us, added dollars to be able to do more than what our contract would necessarily pay for.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any questions. Are there any hands raised? And if not, is there anyone from the committee who would like to ask anything of our participants? And since looks like there isn't, are there any members of the public with us who would like to ask questions, please, about this topic? Please make sure your hands are raised. I don't think we have anything. Cody, is there anything that you can see that I can't see?
No, there are no questions submitted in the Q&A, no hands raised from either members of the public or committee members. Okay.
Well, in that case, I will thank our participants for making the time for us. We do appreciate that, your remarks, the information. We're happy to have you in the community, and thank you for being part of this meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay. Yes, you're welcome to stay, but we won't be offended if you go on with your evenings.
And if anyone has an interest in mentoring, let us know, because that is one way that you can help us and support our program. So we'd be very interested to talk with folks. We have a coordinator who pulls that work together, and we can put you in touch. Thank you all.
Great.
It looks like Corinne has a question.
I have a question then, Denise. Hi, I'm Corinne. Thank you, Rich. I'm Corinne. I'm the chair, but I was delayed. And I totally trust Rich did an absolutely probably even better job than I would. So tell me a little bit more about the mentoring. Like, what does it entail?
Well, we have a mentoring coordinator, and his work is to bring in both group mentoring and one-on-one mentoring. We have a long history of doing mentoring at Good Shepherd, and it really varies. Number one, we try to do individual matching so that if someone says, I want to be a one-on-one mentor for a young person, we try to start with building the relationship first before we even talk about the one-to-one, because oftentimes our girls have, that history of trauma that we talked about kind of like makes it difficult sometimes for them to engage and feel safe in the one-on-one mentoring. So what the mentoring coordinator will do is kind of develop all these kind of group mentoring activities so that young people become comfortable seeing the adults on a regular basis. And then we always have the individual mentor and the youth fill out kind of like their needs and wants around the mentor, and then try to do a match. Over time, then it's like, meeting the girl once a month, first inside the program, and then building up to maybe some external activities in the community. Now with COVID, everything's a little different.
Right.
But when prior to COVID, you would meet for lunch in the community or go to a museum or go to, whatever is of interest to both. And over time, we have many mentors who've been with our kids for several years. We've had mentors see them through college. And we didn't mention that, but a lot of our girls at 17th Street do go to college. Some of them live
Yes.
with us while they're in college, because you can be in foster care until you're 21. And you can actually get an extension if you are in college. So we have some young people who live with us until they're 21 plus. And we have some young people who go to school away from our site, stay in a dorm, and we follow them through that period.
Yes.
And then they come back to us on holidays and vacations, because we know, like all of us know that, just because you go to college doesn't mean you have a place to go for Thanksgiving or Christmas or the summer when everybody else leaves their dorm. Where do foster care children go? And so we are that place. And that also includes the fact that we have over 300 children from infants to 21 plus in family foster care. And we also provide mentoring for those young people as well. So just because, you might want to be a mentor, it's not necessary that you be a mentor at that site, but clearly if you live close by, that's probably the best place for you to connect to. We also have 2 supportive housing programs, one in Chelsea for 18 to 26-year-olds who were either in foster care or homeless. And we have one up in East Harlem. And so those sites also provide a mentoring for older young people who are like really kind of in college, working, thinking more clearly about their careers, and want to connect with adults in the community that might be a network for them. So there are many opportunities.
Yeah.
That's the long and short of it.
Yeah. Really, really quickly, there's an organization that works with a 17th Street called Of Home, Family, and Future. And the adults, these mentors, they work with our young people who are in college, and they track them, they stay with them throughout their college years, and they provide all types of support for them and provide whatever they need that perhaps the city can't provide for them in terms of books, in terms of career counseling, in terms of just college counseling, that extra support that they need, and they follow them all the way through graduation and post-graduation. And that is such a positive connection. And we hear such great feedback from both the mentors in the Of Home, Family, and Future, and from our young people that have stayed and graduated in college because they had that connection.
Great. Well, thank you for answering that. So First, Marie, what is the name of that organization that you do the mentoring, that helps with the mentoring?
Oh, for the college girls?
Yes.
Oh, Of Home, Family and Future.
Off home?
Of Home. I could send the email to you and Annie with the contact information.
Great,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yes, I could do that.
And then just curious, the mentoring. So it looks like the way that I understand it correctly, it's a time commitment to maybe once or twice a month.
Yes, at least once a month if you become an individual mentor. If you do group mentoring, it might be an activity once every couple months, or, he does an array of activities that you can plug into. And so you can, like, right now, because we're virtual, he's doing, I think almost weekly or every other week, he shows a movie at night. And then the mentors and the young person come on and watch it together. And then afterwards, they have a little chat together as a group. So it's
Yes.
group mentoring.
Yes.
But we're trying to be really as creative as possible to have those kinds of activities. So it's, yeah, it's a little different now.
Well, and then I know I've asked this via email a lot, but I'm going to persist. If any of the residents would want to apply to CB6, we would love to hear from them, and we can walk them through the application process. I know I found it intimidating, the application process. So if even if we can just do our own little Zoom presentation to your residents about what it's like to be on the board and how easy or not easy it is to apply, that would be great. We'd love to bring in a much more diverse, like a much more like everybody from the neighborhood, not just very narrow representation. So please.
We want to do, like we do these, as Marie talked about, the Preparing Youth for Adulthood kind of continuum of skill building. One of the things we want to do is really the whole civic engagement.
Civic engagement.
And so really teaching them about the different ways that someone could be involved in their community. This would just be one of them. So because we do have community advocacy as one of our agency goals, Annie and her team would do maybe an intro to that for our girls. And then maybe we could have a conversation with some of you coming on a Zoom and talking with them, like what that really looks like on the ground. So I think it's worth us pursuing, but we want to like lay some groundwork first for them, so they're not like, coming in and not understanding what it's all about.
And the
We have had, Corinne, I just wanted to make sure that you knew we have had Deputy Manhattan Borough President Aldrin Bonilla present on the community board process when the community board was opened up to young people. But that was some years ago, and we had some of our participants from across the agency. So I want to work with you, one, to do that and figure out a way to open it up to not just the young people from 17th Street, but a little bit wider, since it's the same application. And if Community Board 6 is willing, that we can create a whole thing where you all present to the young people. We have many different groups of young people from across the city that might be interested in just knowing the information. So we want to create the platform for that, and we're happy to partner with you to do that.
Great, yes, and our chair is on the line as well, and I think he has some plans about these presentations.
That's awesome.
Great, thank you. Cody, when do the applications close for this year?
The good news is that the Borough President's Office has just extended the application deadline, which was February 1st, to Monday, February 22nd.
Okay.
Right, well,
And
thank you
that,
so much.
Brian Lafferty, I think, is here from the Borough President's Office, and we can connect all of you on a thread with him as well, and see maybe they can drop off some paper applications or walk people through the digital application.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for all your amazing work. And thank you for coming here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, good night.
Good night.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the chair's report. Corinne, would you like to speak, or would you like me to give this update?
Why don't you speak, since you're giving me the option?
Okay, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I didn't want to.
You speak.
Okay, so we have 3 items, and thank you to Cody for doing the background to make sure that I had this in front of me. The first thing to report on is the BRC shelter at the Vanderbilt YMCA. Community Board 6 is a member of the community advisory group for the shelter, and we participated this week in a 6-month check-in call, which included, in addition to us, representatives from Liz Kruger's office, Keith Powers' office, Keith Powers himself, Dan Quart's office, and the BRC people. And other community members included Matt Borden from DHS, Corinne joined, Molly from the Alliance for Kips Bay, Matt Roberts from the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, who's also a member of our board, Detective Arlotta from the 17th Precinct, representatives from the Turtle Bay Association, DAG Plaza, and people from the adjacent building. So the story is that BRC opened this site 6 months ago. This is our second community call. They are happy with how things are going on site. And given that the pandemic is still very much present, and one of the purposes of this is density reduction, they're going to be extending their contract another 6 months through June of 2021. And they hope to expand to more floors of the Y. Right now they have 3 floors, and they're looking to expand down 1 floor to floor 5, and then down another floor to floor 4 if DHS approves, and they can fill the capacity. This will give them a capacity of 310 residents compared to the 220 that they have now. And they hope to start with their first additional floor next month. We got a shout out from them for the donations and for the community overall for being open to the neighbors. The adjacent condo building, their representative expressed frustration about the future of the site as a shelter, although he didn't raise specific concerns. The other organizations that participated, like Turtle Bay Association, Friends of DAG, and so forth, were happy with how things were going overall. They would like Keith's ACE team to do some additional cleanup, and they would like BRC to coordinate with the outreach provider a bit more to make sure that any people who are refusing services get the help that they need. We'll have another meeting in the next few months, and in the meantime, we have BRC's information if we need it. So that's Vanderbilt YMCA shelter is the first topic. The second topic is the Community Advisory Board for the 30th Street Men's Shelter on First Avenue. DHS reduced their capacity at sites like this due to COVID for density reduction reasons. And so the current capacity at the site is 400 clients on site. DHS at the CAB meeting cleared up some misinformation about sex offenders at 30th Street. They noted that because 30th Street is the intake shelter for single men throughout the system, there are some people who list their address as the men's shelter with the sex offender registry because they don't have another address, even though they don't live on site. There are no registered sex offenders living on site at the 30th Street Men's Shelter. Any sex offenders who do require shelter must live at specific program shelters that comply with state and local law about where those facilities can be located. Some additional news that came out at that CAB meeting, there has been an on-site clinic at the 30th Street Shelter now for a year, since October 2019. And DHS provided a telephone number to call if report any issues happening at or around the 30th Street Shelter. I'll read that number into the record. It's 212-701-4790. And the next meeting of the 30th Street Shelter Men's Shelter CAB Community Advisory Board will be in April. Finally, an update on Copa. Our committee is aware that one of the most pressing needs that we face here is a lack of affordable housing. And so we were happy to learn about a piece of legislation that Councilmember Carlina Rivera proposed, who represents part of our community district, known as the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, or COPA. We have discussed this in committee. The situation is that right now, when a residential building is put up for sale, the city doesn't have to be notified ahead of time. This bill would require building owners to notify the city and a list of qualified potential purchasing entities when they put multifamily residential buildings up for sale. And those entities, which would include nonprofit affordable housing developers and community land trusts, would have the opportunity to submit a first offer and to match competing offers for the property in order to be able to use it for community developed or supportive housing. The idea is that with a process like this in place, more nonprofit developers of affordable or supportive housing would be able to assemble the financing to buy buildings and to work with the city in regard to subsidy programs in order to build more affordable units and to ensure that the projects that are built contain more affordable units. So we, our full board, on the advice of this committee, passed a resolution in favor of this bill in December. And our chair, Corinne Vanderdonk, also submitted her own testimony in support of the bill at the City Council's hearing on this legislation last month. So given that our community board is formally on record supporting this, we encourage our members and all New Yorkers to reach out to your City Council member and urge them to co-sponsor this bill, the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, or COPA, and to urge that the City Council bring it to the floor for a vote. So those are the three items in the chair's report. Are there any comments or questions from members of the committee who are on the line? And are there any comments or questions from Cody, who participated in, I think, all these meetings?
I just have a slight correction so that people don't, at DHS don't get mad. The Vanderbilt YMCA call was not a cab, because cabs only exist for permanent sites.
I see. Okay.
Was just a regularly scheduled call between local community groups that Keith Powers, Councilmember Powers, his office has organized.
Okay, I will.
This is not an official cab. Not that
I will make
really
sure
the
that the minutes
is important there, but
no, I understand. Yeah. I'll make sure the minutes reflect that distinction. Are there any members of the public who have comments or questions about this topic?
Abby has her hand raised, Rich.
Oh yes, Abby.
Thanks. I just had a quick question about the Vanderbilt Y. If everyone gets their own rooms, first of all, and if there's like restrictions on common areas, like I haven't been to that Y, but I've been to a different Y, and there's, gym facilities, like inside the building, is there like congregation? And then is there Wi-Fi for people who, you know, need to stay connected? Like, what is, you know, what's going on like inside?
I guess I'll answer that. Some of there are two separate areas. So for example, there's like a children's center there as well. And it's completely separate. So the operations, the continuing operations of the Y that are still ongoing, that have nothing to do with BRC, that's being held completely separate. Common areas, I don't know. I assume that's a good question. Wi-Fi, I'm assuming yes. It is the Y. But those are good questions. Next time I'll send you to the to the meetings. But you know, BRC runs such a tight ship that a lot of these questions, like, they just don't even kind of come up, because there's just this assumption that they do a really good job, which they do. I mean, the Safe Haven on 17th Street, you know, is also just, you know, so incredibly well run. That people don't pick it apart, which we should anyway. We shouldn't like fall asleep on the job.
Thank you. Are there any more comments or questions from either members or members of the public before we move on to the next agenda item? Thank you. I will move on to old and new business. If any member of the committee has any old or new business, please raise your hand in Zoom. And we will give the public opportunities to raise old or new business afterwards. Corinne, you have your hand raised.
Yes. New business for our next meeting. The plan is to look at our resolutions that we've passed over the last 2 years or so. And I've asked people to on the committee to volunteer, and Abby volunteered to take the dedicated outreach team that we had asked for. Thank you so much, Abby. I just want to kind of tell you that what's interesting about that is that we got a response that it wasn't funded, but then Breaking Ground, even before COVID hit, got a really big increase in funding in general. So I think Breaking Ground would be good to speak to, where maybe they didn't particularly respond to our little request, but then, you know, because but on a bigger picture, they actually did. And I'd like to confirm if that's true or not. This is just from my comings and goings. Joan volunteered to research what happened with us with the resolution asking for appropriate funding to DHCR. Rich is going to be working on the budget for the NYPD that we had a reso for. I am going to look at the resolutions that we had 2 years ago around Ymca and the PACS conversion, but I still need Jeffrey, Anju, and Claire to pick a resolution.
Yeah, sorry, I had meant to email you yesterday. Do you want me to still do it, or should I tell you now? Because I know which ones I want.
Sure, you can tell me now.
Yeah, so I'll take the exhibit in Central Park to commemorate the Exonerated Five for one. And I'd also be interested in doing the, to follow up on the requested funding for the stabilization beds for CD6 Public Health District.
Yeah, well, that's Abby has that one.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the same one. I know it's you know, it was such a big.
Any help, so feel free.
Sorry.
Andrew can help No.
Yes. Or pick another one. You can pick more than one because there's plenty.
Corinne, I think those were separate. Like last year, they were one item, and this year we separated them to two.
Mm-hmm.
So I can send around the budget requests spreadsheet to everyone that on the committee, so they can take a look at the responses that we got.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cody. And then if everybody can respond to the doodle for the minutes, please. And after that, if again, if there's any members, that's it for me for all the new business. Rich, do you have any all the new business as vice chair?
I do not have any other older new business, and we should invite other members of the committee to submit any older new business that they have. Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to raise any questions, issues, or make any comments? I don't think we have any. I think we are at the point where we can adjourn the meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn from a member of the committee?
So moved.
Corinne has
Yes.
moved that we adjourn. This motion does not require a second. So if there are no objections, we will adjourn our meeting.
Thank
Seeing
you.
no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.